and welcome again to Motor Week and to our latest Comparo road test. And what gets the going over this time? It's a new group of vehicles that may someday make the family station wagon obsolete, minivans. You know, those now familiar people haulers that are revolutionizing the way families, little league teams, and van poolers are getting from here to there. We have 4 contestants at the starting line. From the Chrysler Corporation, the Plymouth Voyager. From our #1 importer, the Toyota van. From General Motors, the Chevrolet Astro. And a just introduced Ford entry, the Aerostar. Base prices for our group range from a low of around $8,500 for the Astro to just under $10,000 for the Toyota van. I should add, though, that when typically outfitted, minivans come in with moderately high retail stickers of between $14,000 and $15,000.
When $14,000 or $15,000 was moderately high. Oh, the good old days. And that was very prophetic of him to say this might be killing off the station wagon, because that absolutely happened.
The Motor Week staff has given each of these vehicles a good going over, and we'll be ranking our choices in each of 4 categories.
Quick, guys, look busy. Look busy. You, with the clipboard, flip the paper over and pretend to write more notes.
The overall winner will be decided by how well each van stacks up in those individual categories. First category is for overall design. How attractive is each vehicle's shape given its utilitarian purpose? After all, styling is still a big factor in any family's buying decision. We'll look at each van's special features, see how each one is engineered, and find out what makes them all
their quirks and features.
unique. We'll also check under the hoods and engine covers to see how the shade tree mechanics will do with routine maintenance. Our second category, vanability. How easy is it to get in and out of them? How versatile are they at seating arrangements, cargo hauling abilities, and are they easy to load? We'll also include capacities and trailer towing limitations. Next, we'll cover normal passenger vehicle performance, acceleration, braking, and emergency handling. Now, we don't expect these vans to be closet sports cars, but they shouldn't be a disgrace to the four-wheel drive race either. The final category is routine everyday driving. When all is said and done, are these vans really as comfortable to drive as the cars they're replacing? Are they noisy? Are they fuel efficient? And can they get into your garage easily and around tight parking lots?
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and say that I think the Dodge is going to run away with this. I don't know a lot about the Toyota van. I didn't do any research about it before I kicked this off. But you never really saw any. When I was younger, you never really saw any around. Every once in a while, you'd see one. And then the Ford and the Chevy ones, I've said before on this channel that, to me, they were caught flat-footed by Chrysler and just kind of cobbled something together as quickly as they, take a truck and make it into a van. And just threw it out there. So I think the Caravan is going to be the most car-like, the most usable, the most well thought out of all of them.
So it's time now to see what each of these suburban mass transit models has to offer. In design and execution, our 4 minivans have little in common, except they're all small and shaped more aerodynamically than their full-size cousins. The first minivan unleashed on the U.S. market was the legend in its own time Chrysler T-Van, the Dodge Caravan, and our Plymouth Voyager. It's the only front-drive model in our test. There are 2 available 4-cylinders, Chrysler's carbureted 101-horse 2.2-liter and Mitsubishi's carbureted 104-horsepower 2.6-liter. Engine maintenance access is the best of the bunch. Routine service is a snap, except for changing fan belts.
100 horsepower. I know these weren't very heavy by modern standards, but it really is a brick moving through the air. 100 horsepower. These things are slow, but that just 100 horsepower. Come on.
The Toyota van was the first real competition for the Voyager. With its sharply raked front end, the driver and front passenger sit over the front wheels. While great for visibility, consumers might wonder how vulnerable they might be in an accident. But Toyota's unique frame system transfers crash energy towards the rear, away from the passengers, and the van did well in government-sponsored crash testing.
And again, just like the Nissan and Mitsubishi one I did, this strikes me as they had a delivery van or a small delivery truck that was a cab-over design, and they said, oh my gosh, we've got to come up with a minivan too, and they turned it into something for passengers. I don't know if that's true, I don't know if that's the history, but that's what I kind of instantly think about. Two things about this. What a weird shape front door. It actually follows the wheel around and then drops back down. And is that little door behind it, it's lockable, is that the fuel filler area? That's interesting. It's not further back. Ugly little van. This one's not doing it for me at all. But it's also got that hump on the top there, kind of like a conversion van almost would. So I suspect it has pretty good interior space.
Engine access is from under the driver's seat, and even simple adjustments are fairly difficult, but recommended service for the Toyota van is minimal. The overhead cam 90 horsepower 2-liter unit in this 85 van will be bored out to 2.2 liters and 105 horsepower for 86 models. General Motors test candidate, the Chevrolet Astro, and the identical GMC Safari is more like a traditional van. It's blunt and upright, looks very suitable for heavy cargo use. Its rear drive power comes from either a 92-horse 2.5-liter 4-cylinder or Chevy's newest 4.3-liter V6. We chose that 145-horse carbureted model for our test. It's the most powerful engine in any small van. It'll get a 5% power improvement in 1986 when throttle body injection is added. Serviceability is van-like, tight, though you can easily get to belts and dipsticks. Some service requires removal of the bulkhead panel below the dash. Our last
so just like an old-fashioned van where you'd have the big hump right there to get into it.
Contestant, Ford's Aerostar, is van-like too, though it has a super slick design and 0.37 drag coefficient, lowest of the lot. That progressive profile hides a rather conventional rear-wheel drive layout. An 88-horse 2.3-liter overhead cam 4 is standard, and a 115-horse 2.8-liter carbureted V6 is optional. All normal fluid, belt, and hose checks are a snap, but other service looks time-consuming. The inside service panel was easier to remove than the Astro's. So the last to the trough Aerostar has a good overall design for the minivan calling. It seems a bit better than either the Astro or Toyota, but it may not be the best when you consider the progressive front-wheel drive engineering of the Voyager. When it comes to vanability, all four are very versatile. The Plymouth Voyager seats up to 8 passengers, and there's plenty of head and leg room, even in the rear. Bucket seats are standard in the front cabin, but this 3-person split bench is an option. Besides storage nooks, there's a lockable underseat drawer, and you can also get this nifty front...
A lockable underseat drawer, and you put an orange into it. I appreciate they're showing it being used, but is that the only thing they had available at the moment? That's just weird. We're going on a shoot today. Hey, I've got an orange. I guess they took it from their lunch. I don't know.
Front console with cup holder. Being front drive, the Voyager has the lowest floor, and in general, we found the Voyager the easiest to move in, out, and around in. Seat removal is a heavy job for 2 people, with one option, this fold-down bed. At the rear, there's a lightweight single-section hatch. Too bad a lift-over lip prevents simple slide-in loading, and the Voyager's not long enough to take a 4x8 sheet of plywood with the hatch closed. Cargo ratings are a maximum of 1,700 pounds with a trailer towing limit of 2,000 pounds.
Again, what are they putting in these suitcases, guys? Now that I've noticed it in these videos, it's like they fill them with gold or something. I don't know if they're faking or if they actually load these things heavy just to punish their staff.
Pounds. The unusual Toyota van was hit for being tough to get in and out of, with a side door that seemed a bit low for its high floor. Stepping up through the front door is also awkward, and clothes can be soiled easily by the front tires. On the other hand, our 7-passenger Toyota van has great head and legroom in the rear. Its optional twin sunroof package makes for an airy drive. There's a dual air conditioning system too, one front and one rear, and it includes a tiny refrigerator and ice maker.
And that's an idea. They said that about the Nissan. Had a little ice maker too, and that's super cool. I mean, this was very progressive of the time, and you know, later on Dodge had their cool zone, I believe the glove compartment, if I remember correctly. That's a pretty cool little feature, but the rest of the van, yeah, not loving it so far.
Again, a rear hatch is used, and there's also a lip at the floor. Seats in the Toyota were the easiest to remove, and it's the only one in the group that will hold a sheet of plywood with the hatch closed. It has more interior volume than all but the Chevy Astro.
That's surprising. It looks like the smallest in the pictures, but that's pretty surprising right there. It's pretty impressive.
The van has a 1-ton trailer towing capacity and a 1,500-pound cargo capacity, the lowest of the group. The rear-drive Astro has the highest floor of all, but getting in and out at the side is easy thanks to this wide step and very tall door. Interior seating is for up to 8, that is, if you order both optional 3-passenger rear bench seats. They can be removed, again a 2-man job, and can be positioned to face each other. The front cabin is nice and wide, but they forgot to design in any footroom. The Astro is the only small van with dual opening rear doors, a big plus for some buyers. It has the simplest loading, but again, plywood won't fit unless the doors are left open, despite a 1,700-pound cargo capacity. Trailer towing limit is 5,000 pounds, good for a small van.
Well, that tells me it's just based on a truck, honestly. 5,000 pounds. Really high load, really high floor, and obviously it's because they've got that center drive shaft and differential back there. And instead of building a hump around it to lower the floor, they just raise the whole thing up. It is what it is, and again, that just does nothing but reinforce to me that they just threw something together really quickly.
Even though the Ford Aerostar is our newest arrival, we've had experience with a variety of prototype and production units. The Aerostar has the highest cargo weight limit, 2,000 pounds, but it does decrease as options are added. The Aerostar's trailer towing limit is equal to the Astro's 5,000 pounds. The wide side door and handy step makes for easy entry, though the standard middle captain's chairs make it hard to get to the rear. There's optional bench seating for up to 7 passengers, and a second optional all-bench layout will fold down into a bed. The Ford looks less like a truck in the front cabin than the Astro, with good footroom, and it's the most luxurious, with this digital gauge package an option. Ford's rear air conditioning system is similar to the Toyota's, and there's this trick rear seat radio panel. The Aerostar also has a single hatch, and there's no lip for easy loading, even if a sheet of plywood again doesn't fit completely. The Aerostar's seats aren't hard to take out, but it's not helped by the underseat temporary spare tire location. The other small vans have their spares located outside, under the chassis, and Ford will correct this faux pas during the model year.
That's interesting. I did not know that at all, and you know, you're taking your seats out because you need a big empty space back there, and all of a sudden you're like, what the heck do I do with the spare tire? It's interesting they mentioned that 2 of them, you can make a bed out of them. I don't know if these people movers, they actually envision people would take them out camping, for example. You know, certainly most of the campgrounds I would go to, I can just drive my car to it. So maybe people think they would just use this as a tent. I just think it's very interesting. And like I said in another video, you know, you're a parent and you're like, no, Sonny, you're not taking the sports car. You take the minivan. Okay, Dad. Darn.
All our minivans have some compromises in their quest for the ultimate in vanability, but the Voyager and Astro seem to have fewer concessions than the others. You don't want to run any races in a minivan, but acceleration, handling, and braking are still important factors. For one thing, these vehicles are being touted as reasonable alternatives to station wagons. Even with only 4 cylinders, the light Plymouth Voyager turned in the second best 0 to 60 time, 14.7 seconds. The 2.6-liter delivered its 142 pound-feet of torque smartly through the 3-speed automatic transaxle. A welcome 3-liter V6 is still a year away. A special proportioning valve in the brake system also accounted for very stable unloaded stops from 55. With only modest premature lockup at the left rear and little nosedive, stops were straight with little fade.
That's fantastic. 110, that's really, really good. And on those acceleration numbers, I mean, 14.7 sounds slow. It really does. But against its competitors, it'd be interesting to see what the other ones do here in a second. That Nissan and that Mitsubishi, one was 13-ish seconds and the other one was 19 seconds. So the minivan, the Dodge, not a super powerful engine, but lighter weight. It's doing a good job here. Slower than I expected, honestly. A little bit slower than I expected, especially since some of the other vans they were talking about here had like 88 horsepower, 90 something horsepower. This, with the smaller engine here being 101 and the upgraded being 104, I think it was. I expected just a little bit more from them.
Average distance 110 feet, better than many cars we test. That also goes for handling. There is a lot of front-wheel drive induced plowing, but the Voyager's soft suspension rolls to its stops without any unusual results. Toyota's 4-cylinder didn't fare as well. Acceleration times from 0 to 60 were the longest, 18.5 seconds, but the 86 model's larger engine will provide a 20% improvement. Besides that, the 5-speed manual on our test rig was very vague and hard to shift smoothly. Better to go with Toyota's excellent 4-speed overdrive automatic.
A manual transmission in a minivan. Seriously, when was the last time? I don't know when they stopped making those. I don't imagine they ever sold very well, but that's just kind of cool. And again, here that just makes me think of more like a commercial vehicle than anything else, right?
The brakes on this Toyota van performed more to our liking than the ones on a similar vehicle we drove 18 months ago. Hard stops from 55 averaged 131 feet. Not bad. They were straight with only a modest amount of rear lockup and no tail swing. The pedal was very hard though, and there was lots of fade. Our biggest complaint with Toyota van performance has always been with its handling. Its short wheelbase makes it duck into a tight curve faster than the soft suspension can handle. And it lifts a rear wheel on almost every turn in our slalom. But that 88-inch wheelbase and strong third-gear torque gave us slalom times only slightly slower than the Voyager, which had the best times. The larger engine and a new rack and pinion steering unit on 86 Toyota vans may improve things here too. Now to the...
That looked terrifying, honestly, to me. That vehicle does not look like it would instill any sort of confidence whatsoever, right?
Chevrolet Astro. It should come as no surprise that a hefty V6 and a 4-speed auto overdrive transmission makes the GM entry tire chirping fast, the best of the four with a 0 to 60 time of only 11.8 seconds. The Astro has 50% more torque than its only V6 rival, the Aerostar. Brakes on the Astro are at the other end of the scale. They're the group's least impressive. The power disc drum system was very touchy, and the left front wheel had a tendency to lock up prematurely when cold. Stops were straight, but the 140-foot average from 55 was slightly longer than we'd like. On our handling course, the Astro matched the Toyota's time. While there was plenty of pickup-like plow and big van-like roll, the lightly loaded rear end never broke loose, and the Astro inspired the most confidence in our 55-mile-an-hour lane change.
So I'd like to say that just kind of reinforces my opinion of a lot of what GM did really for decades, which, they managed to design an engine that makes good power. They put it through I always thought General Motors made very, very good transmissions, so they end up with a good time, only to turn around and just not put adequate brakes on it. Why? How does that get done? I mean, even if you take into account the longish stopping distance, all of that lockup and swerving around, guys, you can do better. I know you can. You have all the talent in the world. You can do better.
Aerostar was pretty much in the middle of the group in performance. Its V6 acceleration through the very smooth 4-speed overdrive automatic was adequate, if only a touch faster than the Voyager's 4-cylinder, 14.5 seconds from 0 to 60. Brakes were good for a van. The pedal felt great, and the Aerostar's soft suspension did not allow lots of nosedive. There was no tendency to swing and little fade. An average 55-mile-an-hour stopping distance of 131 feet was also quite acceptable for a family vehicle. The Aerostar is a cushy vehicle. Soft springs mean lots of body roll, but its ability to hold the pavement on curves surprised us, although the power steering pump could not keep up with the rapid turns of our slalom. It's important.
So, you know, I think looking at the Astro and the Aerostar there, V6s through a heavier platform, rear-wheel drive, not doing better in terms of acceleration, it shows you the benefits of, well, of a modern front-wheel drive platform back then. They managed to create, Chrysler did, something lighter that managed to perform just with less, right? Less power. And it's pretty impressive, honestly. I know that Chrysler didn't build the most reliable cars in the world in the 80s, 90s, or beyond, but I've said it before, they had swagger, right? And this car really represents it. If you just look at what we just saw, it accelerated well, it stopped the best, it handled okay, it had the lowest floor, it had car-like interior. I mean, it had all the strengths and almost none of the downsides of the other ones. I mean, the only two downsides they really came up with was it couldn't hold a 4x8 sheet of plywood, and it had a lip when you load it in. It's no wonder, even at this point right here, it's no wonder this was such a huge success, providing you more interior flexibility and more room than a station wagon, while at the same time, the competitors that were being rushed out, it was years ahead. It was years ahead of its time. And that Toyota one is just it's a nice reminder to know that not everything Toyota has ever done was a success and turned to gold. This was, to me, a half-hearted attempt.
For these minivans to have reassuring performance, especially when you consider their precious family cargo. They all inspire more driver confidence than full-size vans and most larger station wagons, but the Plymouth and Chevy again seem to have the easiest time of it. These minivans get their biggest test on everyday missions to home, school, and office. All four vans seem no more affected by side winds or passing semis than normal station wagons. The Voyager's front drive makes it a treat in the snow and nasty weather. Its ride is good and well controlled. Its sound level reading is second best, 67 decibels at 55 miles per hour. The Voyager also turned in the second best economy, 23 miles per gallon on our 100...
You know, for comparison, I was just doing a video about the Ford Mustang Mach-E, and I believe what I was reading was that, talking about how good it is on the highway and the quality of the interior, they said the sound level inside, I want to say the wording was a whisper quiet, 68 decibels. This 85 Dodge Caravan had 67. And remember, that's a logarithmic scale, so it's not just a little, that's a nice little bit different. That's pretty impressive, honestly.
100-mile mixed driving loop. With its front drive and long 112-inch wheelbase, the Voyager had the widest turning circle of the lot, 41 feet. While the Toyota generally doesn't do as well as its competitors on the performance track, it shines in everyday driving. It's very comfortable for touring, with a smooth ride over all but the worst bumps. The sound level at 55 is 69 decibels, quiet for a van or car. Mileage placed it first in the group at 24 miles per gallon. Its short wheelbase also allowed it to steal all the honors for turning circle, only 34 feet. On the highways and byways, the true truck colors of the Chevy Astro came through. While the ride is moderately smooth, that cramped front legroom we mentioned made the Astro tiresome. Noise, however, was no problem, since we rate 68 decibels at 55 as quiet. Unfortunately, mileage was only modest at 21 on our test loop. With rear drive and a 111-inch wheelbase, the Astro's 39-foot turning circle was just acceptable. The late incoming Ford Aerostar did even better on the open road. With the longest wheelbase of the group, 119 inches, it soaked up jolts with ease. The soft suspension translated into a luxury car ride. It also had the best sound level reading, 66 decibels at 55. Mileage equaled the Astro's at 21 miles per. The Aerostar's turning circle was wider than all but the Voyager's at 40 feet. Hill climbing power, important for full load vacations, also was adequate in all vehicles, though the Astro V6 had the definite edge. And our last test? Well, all 4 of these vans are of the so-called garageable variety. The definition can vary, so we picked an especially small 6-foot-tall by 8-foot-wide garage for this hurdle. The Voyager made it in and out in a breeze. It has the lowest height of the group at 64.2 inches. The Toyota van was next best at 66.3 inches. Things were much tighter with the Astro. Its 71.7-inch height just squeaked through, and being the widest of the lot at 77 inches, it left little side room to spare. The Aerostar is about the same, 71.5 inches high, so it didn't have an easy time either. But it made it with less trauma since it's 8 inches narrower than the Astro. Obviously, height and width.
I would never in a million years guess that the Astro was 8 inches wider than the Aerostar. Maybe I've never seen them side by side. I don't know, but I thought they were extremely close in terms of dimensions. 8 inches, that's a surprise.
Can be important if you're switching from a station wagon to a minivan. Indeed, what with the compact size of the Voyager, the excellent highway manners of the Aerostar, and fine economy of the Toyota van, picking a top minivan for everyday use turns out to be a maxi chore.
So they don't give us an answer? Well, that's disappointing. I was surprised. I expected a few more minutes there of, here's your top choice. Honestly, the fact is these are 3 completely different vans. And it is fascinating to look back at the 80s of the transition to front-wheel drive and, other products being brought over or having to rush to try to compete and try to downsize, how different manufacturers aimed for the same market. We want something that fits in a garage and can carry people that would replace a station wagon. And you have 3 different layouts. You've got the Astro and the Aerostar with, it's a V6 truck-based, rear-wheel drive. They still do it, and they did some things rather well. I found that the ranking probably would have been the Dodge, maybe the Toyota, and then probably the Aerostar and the Astro. But it's interesting to me, and again, being a fan of Ford, I like that they ended up right in the middle, right? Just kind of doing everything well enough. But then in the next slot is you've got the Toyota that looks distinctly to me like they picked a JDM product and brought it over here and put a rear air conditioner in it. It's really surprising to me with that short little wheelbase. It was so good on the highway. I thought it would be a very jittery ride. I guess maybe the weight smooths it out. I don't know. I expected that to be them to make a comment about the poor ride of it. And then finally the Caravan, the trendsetter front-wheel drive. It was what to beat, and I think it's very clear there, except for one thing, which was the turning circle. Really, the Caravan, I think, was a clear winner. I mean, the Toyota had that cool little cooler and could hold a 4x8 sheet of plywood. If you really need to open the doors like this, then the Astro is the way to go. But, I guess if you own a painting company, that's what you need. And honestly, that's where I saw most of the Aerostars and Astros was more commercial level people, handyman, contractors, painters, people like that, buying those because they were more truckish and more truck-based than just the Caravan. But the Caravan, we all know, was the runaway success and spawned an entire industry of copycats. I'm impressed with Chrysler and what they managed to do without having a template to follow. The engineers at Chrysler and AMC went out and created a groundbreaking platform and design, and then they did it right from the beginning. Was it perfect? Was it as bulletproof perhaps as that Toyota? No, but it was a special time. It really, really was. They were doing a lot of cool things. So this was fun, maybe not as exciting as the Nissan Mitsubishi one, so I invite you, please check that one out if you haven't seen it. But let me know your thoughts. Did you or your family own any of these? Do you remember them? You know, if you picked, say, one of the Toyota, the Astro, or the Aerostar, why? I'm curious to know what made it better for you over the Caravan with its lower floor and generally lighter controls, in my humble opinion. Love to hear from you guys. Thanks for your time.